Oh, yes. Greetings, and salutations. I got some fabulous people in this room with me today. Yes, I do. Miss Jamilah Hinson and JoAnna LeFlore.
Hello, hello.
Yes, yes,
Ejikke,
yes.
Ejikke.
Ejikke, that kind of that lost me for a second. I deeply apologize. I've been knowing you forever, but
It's all
sometimes some pronunciations get in the way. But it's okay. Once again, welcome, good people. I have the honor and privilege yet again to share this room and this time and space with these two beautiful Black women. I will give introductions and then we will go into our segment. First of all, I would like to introduce Miss Jamilah. She is an independent curator and arts programmer. Hinson works often delves into the everyday life of Black people across various cultures and ethnicities. Can I talk today? It's gonna be all right. Examining and glamorizing often erase components of Blackness in the Americas and the Caribbean, with a focus on historical and contemporary Black mysticism and spirituality. Her practice engages various methods of storytelling, examines traditions rooted in both terrestrial and comic spaces, and centers artistic and community narrators. Let's put our fingers together for Miss Jamilah.
Thank
Yes.
you.
Next up, introduction to Miss JoAnna. She is a young communication specialist who prides herself in activating her community through the cultivation of creative entrepreneurs and arts-based programming. Inspired by her professional background as a writer and event planner, JoAnna promotes extensive artist collaboration and localized program development in the Midwest. She is known for helping her clients and excel in working with organizations and community relations and project management, including the Malcolm X Memorial Foundation and film streams. Let's put your fingers together for Miss JoAnna. Hey, hey, hey. So we're gonna dive right on into this. Let's tell the people, explain to the people exactly what you do. We're gonna go with Miss JoAnna first. Tell us a little bit about your work.
Yeah, so thanks for reading the intro. Sometimes when you hear your bio, you're like, do you really do those things? Or is it like a part of some facade of an idea of what you do?
Yeah.
But yeah, so I work with community organizers and artists, entrepreneurs, and my background is really on helping people facilitate their idea into reality. So I do a lot of like organizing, logistics, planning, and that type of stuff. But the type of artists that I really enjoy working with are the ones who have layers to their work and some sort of thought process behind what they're working on. So I've come across a lot of deep thinkers in that process. And so that's something I've always enjoyed doing professionally. And we'll talk later about how I got to that point and how this topic overlays all of that. But I also am very involved in currently the Malcolm X Foundation. And so the joy of that is that I get to wear that hat that is culturally relevant for me in my community work and teaching and educating people on our history. I'm a Black history nerd, so that's kind of, I took Jade's classes last year. So
well taught. You were well taught.
Yes, ma'am. So anytime I get a chance to absorb all things about Black history, Black culture, and especially African philosophy, I'll be in the room. So yeah.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Miss Jamilah, we're just gonna go ahead and take turns.
Yeah. Well, I'm an independent curator. Sometimes people don't know what that means, so I like to just say I create space for artists to connect with the audience. My focus is very heavily on in a broad stroke. It's on like Black queer artists and their narratives throughout the Americas predominantly, specifically North America and the Caribbean. I do like a lot with I'm a very artist and community focused curator, which is part of the reason that I'm an independent curator. It's easy if you're in an institution to get locked away in that, but like I like to be on the ground, and that's where you're able to really touch the community and like really connect with them in many senses. Um, yeah, I'm always bad at telling people what I do, so I hope I like people know what I do a little bit.
You're used to it, honey, because I got a good feeling that you and JoAnna need to collaborate. And
I literally just put that in the chat, like working with curators is like, to me, a dream team of like helping people execute stuff, you know. So anyway, yeah, me and Jamilah just started talking about a lot of things.
Expand on that, JoAnna. How do you think that's possible? Expand on that.
Well, you know, you have art, like I mentioned before, artists usually have very layered, deep thought processes about what they're working on. And you have to have a space to have the event or whatever the presentation is. And curators spend a lot of time working with the artist on the expression of whatever they're working on. And I'm on the other end, like, cool, the game plan, according to curators said through artists, you know, is like, we're going to do this first, introductions, and then I like to pull all the pieces together to expose whatever their vision is. So, and then if it's like topical relations, like we can bond on the idea itself, then it becomes an even more powerful experience for the audience members. So I've been to shows where I'm just like, oh, they had a good team, you know. You can't see nothing behind the scenes, you know.
Yes.
You see the artist, and then you hopefully you see the curator too, if there's one involved. So
that's good stuff. That's good stuff. As a reminder, we are here talking about African religion, mysticism, and Christianity. I think I have some good questions here this morning, young ladies. And whoever wants to take a stab at it first, go ahead. How does mysticism relate to African religion? How does it relate? Is there a relation?
I'd say there's a relation. Jamilah, do you want to jump in, or?
I mean, yeah, I think that is like absolutely a relation. I feel like in any kind of, regardless if it is from like the continent or anywhere on earth, if there's spirituality, there is mysticism in some aspect. I think how it manifests itself changes from culture to culture, obviously. And like a lot of my practice, I researched heavily Black American conjure traditions. And so you'll see those like particularly West African and Central African mysticisms and kind of spiritual practices melding heavily with I want to say Black American Christianity, because when you get into like Christianity in the Americas, people like, you know, you read like the WPA interviews of like people who were enslaved, and they're like, no, there's a difference between the white man's Christianity and our Christianity. And so I think that is a mysticism within itself. So it's really like, so it's like yes, there's heavy mysticism throughout, I'm going to say very generally, all African spiritualities and religions, but it's really what it looks like when it's manifested in like through the practitioners.
Yeah.
Good point.
Yeah, I don't have much to add to that. It's like hit the nail on the head. I don't know exactly who's in the room, but I would say mysticism, like really defining that, once people understand what that is, they can see how frequent it shows up in Christianity, of course, but also African philosophy in general, you know. And, you know, you read the blogs or people who write about this type of stuff, and they're always talking about this altered state of consciousness when it comes to mysticism, you know, and how that's experienced. And the one thing I love about it, the idea of it, is that you can't pigeonhole it or put it in a box. And that's what a lot of, to me, African-based spirituality is about. Like, it has layers to it, and you can't put it in a box. You know, like other religions have certain very strict guidelines or something like that. I mean, there's some rules in some of the African belief systems too, but the idea of mysticism it just makes sense that it's connected to African religions.
Yes. You mentioned rules. How can I form this question? As far as rules and religion and mysticism are concerned, and African religion, how has that affected us as a people? All the rules, and you have to do this, and you have to do this, you have to dress a certain way, you have to do this, all these different denominations that we have now. And everybody is like, it's this way or it's no way. It's our way or the highway. You're only going to heaven if you're in this denomination, and it's just like, okay, what is that about? So how has those rules and regulations, even I can go as deep as policies and the creation of denomination, how has that affected us as a people in this spiritual world? You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Go ahead, Jamilah.
Yeah, I think I might go on a tangent, but I think I
this question wasn't even on the question, but that's okay.
Okay. And we talked about this like very briefly when we were on the phone earlier this week, Doriette, about the denominations and what that means. And I think it's interesting because there are a lot of rules and regulations, whatever the word that makes most sense in like Black Christianity and like the denominations that you see in it. But I think it's also very interesting to look at how those rules are kind of morphed and changed to fit what you need. So like you'll see a lot of reading calling like I got to go back to Conjure, but I'm also going to talk about like the Pentecostal church a little bit. How it's like a vernacular religion or vernacular spirituality, where it's taking both like learned and lived religion and spirituality and melding it with like doctrine of like the Christian church. And I think that's I feel like there's a good and a bad to that. Like you were saying, like there are these policies, these rules that can kind of mold people to pulling out a lot of the essence of a spiritual practice. Like particularly a thing that is brought up a lot is like the ring call. Like that used to be like everywhere. I'm going to say a couple generations back, and as there were fewer and fewer people born on the continent in America, more like second, third, fourth generation Black Americans. There was this kind of want to separate themselves and be more like Christian. And I'm talking very generally, of course. And so you see like some of these very important cultural aspects of spirituality being kind of, I'm going to say ripped away, but they're also still there. Because I mean, you talked about in the Pentecostal church, people will speak in tongues. There'll be a ring shout. There's a lot of singing. And I grew up in a Baptist church, and there was a lot of that as well. So I feel like as much as there's been a regulation on Black folks and like how to even, I'll just say, practice our spiritualities, is always still that undercurrent of, but this is where I came from, this is what I know, and I still want to have that like deeply rooted into my practice, whether it's like in a personal sense or like a more communal sense. If that isn't completely off the track of what you were talking about, but
I don't think it's off the track. Yeah, JoAnna, do you have something to add?
Not yet. I think I'm still brewing on the experiences I've had based on that question.
That was my next question. Let's talk about experiences.
Okay.
I'm sure, I don't know who's all on here. It looks like I see Eric Jordan in the house. And I personally know him, but I know he grew up Baptist. So we have all these denominations. Your experience? Let's
I mean, I grew up, first we went to AME growing up. So that was different. But when I look back at it, AME had a lot of structure, actually, the church that we went to. But then, like, throughout my, middle school through young adult, I was Baptist on my mama's side. But on my dad's side, it was apostolic.
Okay.
So I had this, different experiences growing up. And so there was structure on that side too, the apostolic side. So I think I don't even know that if I was being prepared to like absorb that early, going back and forth, because my parents were divorced. So that was why I was going to different places. And I think the reason why I was exposed to those things was because I had to be open-minded to what true relationship with spirit is. And that was what it was preparing me for. But because when I got to college, I was taking African philosophy classes and all types, and humanities and stuff like that. So it was easy for me to learn from other people too. And when I was able to do that, I started seeing, these other religions have different experiences with what they might call their almighty leading figures and spirits. So from my experience, I've learned to ignore the rules, and not put my idea of how things should go on other people. But that doesn't always work for those folks who are deep into whatever their spirituality is.
Right.
But I know for me, you can't control what's happening in the spirit realm necessarily. And so you have to be open to your role in it.
Okay. Come on, roll.
Yeah, so that's been my experience, and that's like the nutshell of how I approach understanding new things, understanding or remembering what I was taught. But the rules, sometimes they restrict people from digging deep,
Come on.
And I could talk all day about digging deep because of the things that have been going on in my life lately. But look, these African-based religions that Jamilah was talking about that carried over with us, they was going deep on a regular, okay?
Yes.
So it wasn't hard for them to tap in.
No, it was not.
And sometimes when you have rules and regulations, you can't tap in like that. Matter of fact, you just don't even get to the tip of the iceberg, the edge. You just go around. And, my experience was frustrating growing up Baptist a lot because of that. And luckily, I understood like what Jamilah was saying when she said we still had the touch of some African-based knowledge, the ring shouts or the speaking in tongues. So I still witnessed it, but it wasn't allowed,
Okay.
There was a tone. It really wasn't allowed. But
okay.
I'm going to let you, I'm done. I think I'm done on that one.
You think you're done on that one?
I'm done on that one. Yeah.
I think she got more. It'll come eventually.
It'll
come back.
It'll come back. Does anyone have any questions right now? I will leave us at least 5 or 10 minutes when we're getting ready to wrap up for Q&A. But if anyone has any questions right now, please feel free to put it in the chat. I'm doing my best to look in there and figure out if anybody is posting any questions, or else I have
comments. I see comments.
I do see comments. Relationship with spirit. Thank you for the nuggets, JoAnna. Miss Naya, I see you. Greetings, Mr. Jordan, Eric. Is that everybody that's in the room today? Nope. I think there is another Miss Parker. I don't want to get lost in that. Yep, Miss Julia, I believe, is in the room as well. Wow, this is such a heavy topic, and it just opens up so many thoughts. And I'm not on the panel, but how has your experience, Jamilah? You said you were raised Baptist?
Yeah.
Okay. Can you expound on your experience being raised Baptist and from, just what you know then, what you found out then, and what you are now? Like, how was that experience? How did you evolve into this space?
That's a good question. I feel like it was less of an evolution and more of just a continuum of like opening up, because I was raised Baptist. I was baptized at Zion Baptist, excuse me. But I grew up in a household where part of my father's family is Muslim, so I had like a lot of that heavy influence, and both of my parents were just very open. They were very Brooklyn hippie, you know. So I think yes, we would go to church on Sundays, but I would still come home and be in a much more religiously diverse atmosphere. And so I think I'm very like privileged in a sense to have already been not even questioned, because I didn't even need to question, because it was always Christianity, and like specifically like the Baptist denomination was always presented to me as this is an option. This can be a part of your spiritual journey if you even choose to have one. So I think I was, from a very young age, I was allowed to be very free with my understandings of the Bible, of the Quran, any kind of spiritual writings that happened to be in my house. And so I think as I've gotten older and gotten to into like my curatorial and like my research practice, I have been able to like understand my own like personal spirituality. What that is, I couldn't really name it. I think it's something that like a lot of like Black and brown and just like people of color going through, who were raised in like more Christian households, where we are like, to use the term decolonizing Christianity is very broad, so I don't want to necessarily use that term, but bringing in, you know, more of our traditional practices. So you'll see like a lot more people who go to church on Sunday and still have an altar in their home and still do tarot. Like I get my tarot read, and it feels very spiritual, and it feels like I'm very connected to the divine in that sense. So I think from a young age, I was allowed to look around and question. And I think that's where that openness led me to questioning even further and wanting to understand both like the Black American spiritualities beyond just like conjure and Christianity, and also just like what the diaspora has, because as people were forced to leave the continent or left the continent on their own accord, like a lot of these things shifted and changed, and they became melded into like the traditions that we would see in Western Africa and Central Africa. So that's a very long way to say. I think my childhood primed me to question, because it was always allowed in the first place. You know. Yeah.
That's good.
That's extremely good. JoAnna, you mentioned you were briefly discussing restrictions and how it kind of confines you and keeps you in this box, right? Yeah. How was that experience for you? And as an adult, do you sometimes find yourself, I don't want to say reverting back to it, but is it kind of sometimes in the back of your mind? And the reason why I asked that is because when I made the comment earlier, when I said, is this way or the highway? You know, this is the religion that you're going to see in heaven. That's what I was taught growing up in a Pentecostal church. So it's just like when you get older and your eyes become open and you become more aware of different cultures, and it's just like, you know what, y'all kind of doing the same thing, but you're calling it something else. I didn't have to do y'all don't have to do all that I had to do to get to where you at. So I'm trying to understand, like, what in the world happened? So how did those rules, how did they affect you?
Yeah. So I'll say there's some good things about rules, but there's some bad things in a very general sense. The good things that I'll say is that sometimes when you go through a routine and build a muscle of doing something over and over again, it helps you reach a certain stage of understanding.
Come on.
And I think that is the benefit that having a system or a flow in any sort of thing, you know, leads you to becoming an expert or becoming well-versed in what it is you're trying to experience. So I think there's some benefit in practice of something.
Okay.
On the flip side of that, though, you can get so bogged down with trying to remember everything or feeling like you're out of place if you miss a step, being corrected if you miss a step.
Come on.
Or chastised, either way.
Come on, in front of everybody, in front of the whole congregation. Yes, ma'am. Come on.
Yeah, and then they call that accountability or something like that sometimes. But yeah, that's a whole nother tangent.
That's a whole nother baby. That's a whole nother.
So I, in my experience, you know, I've had good and bad memories, for lack of a better word, from that sort of spiritual upbringing. And I'll say that one thing that my mother did a great job of was, while she wanted me to go to church because she was like, this is what you should be doing. Because maybe they provided the tools that she couldn't like articulate the best way to teach me certain things. She also sent me outside, you know, and I was able to explore. And this is when you didn't have to worry about your kids like running down the block or running to the fields and stuff like that. She allowed me to explore through nature, and that to me showed the benefits of systems and flows and how things are organized already. And how that can apply to us, you know, and just accepting that flow and not trying to control it, you know. She didn't even know that she was doing that or exposing me to that. So I think that nature has always been connected to African spirituality. And sometimes when you have rules and buildings and institutions, they like exclude that, you know, like, I don't know, Jamilah, like in your research, but the little things that I observed growing up in church came from nature. Okay. like the blessing of the oil.
Yes.
Yeah.
Where did it come from? You know?
The earth.
Thank you.
Right from the earth.
Right.
Yeah. Baptism, using water, like water is a very big part of spirituality and a lot of Christian belief systems, African-based Christian belief systems.
Yes.
So anyway, when I just observe those scenarios, I'm like, y'all got all these rules and everything, but like it's not that important. It's not. But yeah. What you think?
Yeah, like speaking. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Speaking of like the nature-based part, like I'm happy you brought that up because I was just thinking about that. Like I just remember my baptism being submerged in water, and just like that's a feeling in of itself, you know, just being in the power of water on planet Earth, and like especially with the nature within like and it being just up against like the rules of a certain spiritual practice. I mean, thinking of like the research I do, charms are of nature, you know, so it can be and a lot of the charms that were like heavily used, they were divined by placing Bible scriptures up against them. So you'll have like a foot of salamander with like a John the Baptist scripture or something like that, because nature is always going to overrule institutions. And even if you don't know that, you feel that.
Come on in the room, Miss Hinson.
And we may not know that, but we know that inherently. I'll say that we know that inherently. And so like the power that you can place in, even if you want to call it a nature-based spiritual practice, whatever it might be, there's a divinity in there that's a lot more naturally rooted to the earth, that for a lot of people brings more power to whatever however they practice, whether it's, you know, whether it is root work or whether it is going out into the world and like grounding yourself just in the grass and dirt, you know. I think thank you for bringing that up.
The grounding, oh my goodness, I could talk all day about that.
And light plays a good factor as well. But what are we now being taught to go to? We're taught to be going back to the earth. But that's where it all started. I mean, it's just like we didn't forget. I mean, we've been doing this for how long, y'all? I mean, for a long time.
Years.
I mean, thousands and thousands of years. And it was there. We had a good foundations. Our ancestors were teaching us. And then all of a sudden, here come whatever wave of whatever you want to call it. And it's just like, now you want to try to beat it out of me. Now you're trying to beat it back into me. It's like, okay, well, what you want me to do? help me understand. But thank you, JoAnna. I'm so glad that you brought up the earth, like oil. We need all that works together.
Yeah,
works together. And our ancestors, even to this very day, I can walk up in my old the Pentecostal church that I was born in, and if I'm going down for prayer and I ask the elder to pray for me, you know what they're gonna go get immediately? It's right here.
Yeah.
Let me go ahead and anoint this chakra here. They may not call it that.
Let's talk about.
I dare not say chakra or yoga or anything like that. Growing in a Pentecostal church, that is of the devil. Really?
But why did you do that right there?
But the word that y'all got me born in, because you can't join in, you got to be born in where I came from. But anyway, says to meditate on good things.
Yes.
Right. I'm thinking breath is a form of getting peace and balance in your body and your mind and your spirit. Am I wrong? Can y'all elaborate on that a little bit? Just help me out.
Listen, meditation is one of them ways you tap in.
Yes.
Right. And breath. I'm so glad you said breath. Like us speaking to each other and being around each other when we're in communion, as they say, or congregating together, like that communal breath is important. And we don't even understand that goes way back. The unified breath. So yeah, I mean, I remember the first time I was in I don't know what you call it, maybe really but I went to some alternative Black conference in Chicago, and we all joined hands. We didn't know these people. It was just like a welcome thing before the conference started, and the lady said, "I need everybody to inhale and exhale together." I was like, I'm 18, by the way. I'm like, what? We didn't do this at church. We held hands and stuff. We prayed and we said certain things together, but okay, just take a breath. Okay. And like after that was done, there was an automatic sense of unity, no matter what background you came from.
Yeah.
And I think that type of experience happens when we're singing hymns together, when we're praying together, when we're like witnessing something or affirming somebody together. So as much as like folks be trying to say that, it has no connection to what they doing over there, that yoga and meditation ain't what we talking about. Like, no, we do it in church still too. We do.
Yeah. Like I can't say that you cannot separate Black American Christianity with whatever word you want to use, whether it's like magic, spirituality. You cannot separate the two. No matter how much the church might be like, we don't do that here. You still got your oil. People are dancing. They're feeling a spirit, and they're being moved by that spirit. We're being baptized in the water. Like you said, like there is no separation, whether it's the whole congregation singing together, or it's, you and a couple of your friends coming together one night, checking in heavily and like feeling each other's energy and presence. Like you can't separate it. You can't separate it.
You oh my God, this brings up so much. So I just thought about this movie, Avatar, right? And when they were gathered around the tree of life.
Yes, that is my favorite scene.
And how they were chanting and praying and joining hands and becoming one. They were praying for protection over their land, for one another, strategy. And it's just like, oh my God, how this so relates. When as I was watching that movie, though, I immediately went back to church.
Right.
It was immediate. I said, well, look at that, joining hands and laying on the hands and praying for folk. Look at that. Look at that unity. And I think that we need so much more. We need more and more and more of that. We could just take some moments and just gather together. Let's just breathe. Let's inhale, exhale, right?
Mm-hmm.
Come on, curator. Come on. Yeah.
Jamilah, can I ask you one more? You brought up materials and things. You used the word trinkets, or what did you say?
Charms.
Yeah.
Charms.
You might have done all the research on this already. I just wanted to know how you felt about the fact that charms show up in gift giving.
Oh, it's a
so,
whole market, JoAnna.
I know, and I'm
coins on charms.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Stacking coins on charms. On the what's the shoes? The little cushiony little I was gonna say Chucks. I'm looking at my Chucks. That's not what it is.
What?
The sandal, not the Birks, but the other one. We can put charms on the shoes.
Oh, the Crocs.
Crocs.
Yeah.
They're stacking coins. Come on.
Yeah, can you just talk more about that, Jamilah? Because
that's not something I look like super duper heavily into, but like I know that like I feel like because okay, there's the charms that are the charms as we think of them are like it's a very particular kind of like tradition in like Black American spirituality, like how objects will hold some kind of power.
Yeah.
And like you see that kind of like commercialization of them that's been happening since like the turn of the last century. And you'll go down to New Orleans now and like you'll be able to buy whatever you want to buy or something like that. But like charms as gift giving, it makes me think of, and like I haven't done a ton of research on this, so we can just talk about what we think.
I'm just off the riff asking random.
It makes me think of like the healing, harming aspects of like conjure. So it makes me think of like I'm giving you something to protect yourself for the next year. I'm giving you something for prosperity. And it may not be how like a root doctor made it, in 1850, but it still means that object has that energy or has that meaning to it. That's how I see it. But I'm very interested about what y'all think about it.
Yeah. Go ahead, Ms. Doriette.
I was just gonna say I remember watching this documentary on it was an old slave quarter grounds, and they were trying to build something on top of it, but the people around were like, no. The citizens and the people that lived, they were like, no, this is sacred ground. When they got to digging, you know what they were finding? Outside of bones from our ancestors were charms. They were finding a bunch of charms, and then they went into what each charm meant. The reason why you would give this specific charm to someone as a gift. So it's just like this. That beautiful cycle just continues. It just continues. And I don't know if I don't think that it's just in the Black culture as it relates to religion and African religion or mysticism. I feel like there are other cultures that do the same.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yes. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yes. Heirlooms.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, when Jamilah mentioned the altars and stuff like that, that was my introduction to how materials have power. In addition to this one class I took, the professor's name was Sekhmet, but at UNO, and we read a few things. But I had to keep this book. Well, I lost it, then I bought it again. But it's called Flash of the Spirit.
So good, yes.
Jamilah, yeah, you know what I'm talking about. Yeah.
Got myself right now.
This book right here we read from a lot, and it goes through a number of like examples of how artifacts are used or have been transferred down or observed by sometimes mostly white collectors, right? Rich people have had the opportunity to collect these things, but it's in a book, and we can observe how, oh wait, my grandma had something like that on her mantle or in her china cabinet.
Yes.
I recognize that, and so that was like the memory I have of like first time reading that book, and when I go to people's houses now, and I'm just like, look at all this reflection of African history.
Yeah.
Like we can't even help it sometimes. Like it just, especially when something gets passed down, or like I automatically decorate my house like my mama didn't know that I was doing that until I went back home one time. I was like, oh, I get that from you. And she's into seashells and all types of things from the sea, basically. So I'm like, okay, mama, you don't know what you're tapping into, but you gave it to me. So
she tapped in. She tapped in unknowingly, right? Unknowingly. I have a comment here, and I'm going to see if you two want to elaborate. It's from Ms. Naya Moses. The Black Christian experience is a combination of biblical ignorance, patriarchal mindsets, slavery, and African roots. The burden of understanding is on the individuals to seek out the truth and understanding. Wow. Wow.
The burden, that's an interesting word choice. The burden of understanding. And I love to talk to Naya, is it about that? But it's like, is it a burden once you start to understand where everything comes from?
Good question.
At least that's how I'm interpreting that word, and there's a lot there. But that's the first word that grabbed me. So, Jamilah, you got a response? I don't know what else to say.
No, I think this is. I wish you was on the panel too. Like, there's so much. I feel like, because the Black Christian experience is is a heavy combination of so many things, and it's things that that are both I want to say traumatic and fulfilling. Not I don't know the right word. I'm getting tired. I don't know the right word to use. But so it is a very specific kind of Christianity, particularly just for the United States, because the Black Christianity that you're going to see in the West Indies is not completely different, but it's different because a lot of religious practice has so much root in just the history of the land and how the people who were being brought up into this or being forced into this religion had to deal with the kind of their lived reality. So I think there's a lot there. The burden is also, I think usually I'm learning and relearning. But yeah, I think that's just a very interesting comment. There's a lot there. That could be a whole paper.
Oh yeah. Sure could.
Do we have any other questions right now? Comments? No. I feel like it's just three of us in here.
I know, so it's so different. Jamilah, I'm so glad you know about that book. So I'm like, I'm on the right track because Jamilah studies. Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Did we talk about a connection between African religion, Christianity, and mysticism? Did we talk about that connection?
I think we did in so many words. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Naya, for participating. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Yes, thank you.
We may need to have a whole nother session on.
Are we supposed to end now? Are we supposed to stop talking to each other?
It's 1:47.
Jamilah?
I mean, I have to get off like in 13 minutes, but if there's still stuff to talk about, I'm open.
She has a hard stop at 2.
Okay.
It's 1:47 my time, so it's
I would love to share like resources.
Yes, I do need. Yes, we need resources. Any upcoming events, things like that you all are involved in, that you want to share with the world.
Jamilah?
I don't really have anything coming up that I know of. I do get things sprung on me sometimes. But as of now, everything I'm doing is very much 2022, thankfully, forever. So I'm going to be very low key for the rest of the year. So nothing for me.
We got a little time to plan. We got a little time to plan if we want to come up to, where are you? Connecticut?
Connecticut, yes. New Haven, Connecticut.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't have anything coming up either except this baby loading. So, but I was thinking I could share just some resources for people who might see this later or don't, if they want to be exposed to. Absolutely. But there's a couple films that I was exposed to that also helped me appreciate the research and learning I was having. Okay. One of them is called Daughters of the Dust. A must see. It's a film about the transfer of our history through the Gullah. Y'all know what I'm trying to say. The Gullah peoples. People. Beautiful story of love, family, connection, separation. I feel. Another one is called The Assailant. Felicia Webster put me onto this. That's the English name of the film, but it's also Besuro.
Can you spell that first one for me?
It's
okay.
It talks a lot about it's a portrayal of love through the Orisha spiritual practice. Capoeira is a big part of that film. So if you want to dive into like, or you don't want to read no books necessarily, you can't get your hands on something like this, those two films I would say are like in that top 5 for me. Okay. Not of Black history, but of this particular topic.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I don't have any films to add, unfortunately. I wish I did now.
Any books or
books, of course, Flash of the Spirit, definitely. Black Magic, what is it? Religion in the Black American Experience, I believe is the full title. A really good one is Black Culture and Black Consciousness. Very old book, but have it was written a lot by through firsthand interviews and during the New Deal WPA stuff of formerly enslaved people and their practices and things that were handed down.
What was that called, that last one?
Yeah, I need to.
Black Culture and Black Consciousness.
Okay.
Oops.
I wish I had my list of articles, but I have a ton of articles. So if people want to reach out, and I can give article resources as well, but there are too many of those and I just can't off the top of my head.
For real.
This has definitely been a pleasure. It has been an honor really to sit with both of you and have this discussion. I really hope that we can continue some kind of way. Jade, if you are watching, I think this may need to be a recap or some type of something. Maybe before the year is out. I don't know. But she'll look at me and be like, really? I don't think so.
Catch me next year.
2022. If no one else has any questions or comments, I see Miss Julia Parker in the room. No? Okay. Thank you so much, ladies. I'm going to go ahead and I guess stop our broadcast. But yet again, this is the Fabtabulous Miss Jamilah Hinson and Miss JoAnna LeFlore Ejikke. Ejikke.
Yeah.
Yes. Love it. All right. Much love to you, ladies. Be blessed and be safe.
Bye.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.